tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa ye suppayutta manasa dalhena nikamino gotama sasanam hi te patti patta amatang vigaiha laddha muda nibbuting bunjamana idampi anghe ratanam panitang etena saccena suvanti hotu. Venerable Chief Nayaka Handaro, Venerable Sirs, friends and children in the Dhamma, welcome for our Saturday regular Dhamma talk. Today, this Dhamma talk is a continuance of the Ratana Sutta. Today, the 7th verse. The merits that we generate out of this sharing of the Dhamma be dedicated to Mr. Vijamu Lokubandara, the Speaker of our Parliament in Sri Lanka, who passed away a few days ago, wherever he is now, however he is now. May he be rejoiced with these merits, and may these merits be a positive energy for his present existence to become blissful, happy, and peaceful. That is the wish Naikamduro and other venerable monks in the temple, as well as a group of devotees of New Jersey Buddhist Vihara, that they wish to share these merits together with Mr. Vijabu Lokubandara. So with this aspiration, let's begin this talk. Now, in our last talk, we talk about the noble individuals who attain to the stages of enlightenment, stages of supramundane path, stream winners, once returners, non-returners, and arahants. We talked about their attainments. We talked about the defilements that they eliminate in the process of attaining to those stages. And today, we are talking about the art of living, or the way they live after their attainment to those stages of the Nibbana. Because once they attain to the stage of Sotapanna, stream entry, the pattern of their consciousness is completely changed, altered, in relationship with the consciousness they have before their attainment to the Sotapanna. So once somebody attained to the first stage of Nibbana, he doesn't think anymore as he was thinking before. His pattern of thinking is changed. His way of life is to go beyond now, not to get stuck in the process of rebirth anymore, but to go beyond the samsara. His inclination is more into the Nibbana than to the world. So in this 7th verse in the Ratana Sutta, Buddha talks about the way somebody lives after he has changed into the supramundane path, after he has altered his consciousness completely away from the worldly life, the life in the world, the way of his living after he got rid of the worldly attachments. So this verse is explaining that changed life of the one who entered onto the path of liberation. Ye suppayutta manasa dalhena. Suppayutta, well attained, well engaged. Manasa dalhena. Dalhena, steadfast. Manasa, with the mind. So with an steadfast mind, he is well engaged. Now this well engaged represents the sealer, because his engagement with the life after attaining to the supramundane path, after getting established on the path to Nibbana, his engagement with the life is pure. Yes, suppayutta. What is this pure engagement? That is the life which is harmless, which is blissful in the triple actions of physical, verbal, and mental. His actions are pure, harmless to himself and for others. And his words are not harmful for anybody. And his thinking is harmless. Thinking is pure. Now, for the life to be pure, there must be pure background behind. So these actions are based on non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. This is an undefiled or defilementless state of mind. In that undefiled state of consciousness, whatever action happens, whatever words he say, whatever thinking occurs in the mind, they are based on pure, ultra pure state of consciousness. And the outcome is nothing but a pleasant, harmless, blissful repercussion. Now, if we look at this in a broader sense, Supayutta represents the sila, morality, which is the stepping stone to the spiritual climb, spiritual ladder. Without the morality, or without taming our actions happening from body, mouth and the mind, there is no any spirituality to happen. Spirituality cannot happen with an uncontrolled physical, verbal and mental deeds. So it merits to talk something about sila here. Now, sila can be twofold: charita sila, varita sila. Sila based on disengagement is varita sila. 5 precepts are based on disengagements: killing, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, deceiving others, and getting drunk. These things must be avoided at any cost to stop our perdition in the next life, stop the hellish realms, stop the suffering in the next life. This is varita sila, to avoid them. In another sense, in a deeper sense, to disengage in the activities driven by greed, driven by anger, driven by delusion. Whatever action you do based on greed, hatred, delusion, lobha, dosa, moha, no pure, beneficial, good repercussion result to happen, result to occur. Whatever resultant originated on these triple unwholesome roots, they are bound to be unwholesome, creating suffering for himself and others, creating misery around, nothing else. So the varita sila, the morality that arises with the avoiding, with disengagement, are nothing but, in one sense, 5 precepts. In another sense, all the activities, whatever you name, look at the driving force behind that activity. If it is based on greed, hatred, delusion, then that action must be avoided. For the sake of our own benefit, for the sake of our own disastrous consequences that can occur for ourselves in the future and for the sake of others. To avoid these disastrous consequences of action, just look at the heart, the mind, before you engage on them. Before the engagement of the action, look at the mind. the result of the action can presume, can guess. This is what is going to happen if I do this. It is unbeneficial, it is disastrous, it is a misery for myself and others. Must stop doing this. Disengagement is a sila. Then engagement, charitra sila. Whatever action occurs based on non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Non-greed, selflessness, non-hatred, metta, loving kindness, and non-delusion, wisdom. Whatever action happens based on selflessness, loving kindness, and wisdom, that action bound to generate blissful, happy, beneficial resultants for the one who commit that action and for the ones who receive the results of that action. That action is something to be engaged. These are the charitra sila. Now these two divisions are very important. And these two divisions based on another factors to arise. The other two factors that cause these charitra and varitra sila are the background where that sila occurs, where that morality occurs. Buddha says, if you are aware, if you are mindful, that mindfulness itself is enough for you to tame yourself, control yourself. Things happen. In our life, being mindful or unmindful. Most of the times, for the things happen which is being unmindful, we feel we are not responsible. But actually we are responsible for all the actions happen. But if we are to maintain a certain mindfulness continuously throughout our wakefulness, you can find that mindfulness itself creates some wisdom in us to judge ourselves about the actions that we are to perform, about the things we are to engage or disengage. We can judge ourselves whether they are good or bad. Buddha himself, when he introduced this mindfulness to the monks for the sake of taming them, his introduction was, be mindful of the impermanence in the physical body, the form, the feeling that arises in the body, and the perception that arises on the feeling, sanya, and the formations that arise based on that perception. And then look at your consciousness, the way the consciousness reacts, accumulating good or bad energy. So this observation of the impermanence in the form feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Then Buddha says, observe the impermanence in the form, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. Then Buddha says, observe the non-self, egolessness, ownerlessness in the form, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness. When you observe this, anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering, and non-self, anatta, in the form, perception, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness, with that observation, you create a certain wisdom in you. In that wisdom, your morality is preserved. This is how Buddha disciplined his earlier disciples. Whoever joined the Buddha in the first 2 decades of his ministry, in these first 20 years, they were keen to practice this awareness, this mindfulness that the Buddha introduced. And because of this acute practice on the mindfulness, they were non-required, they were not required any kind of precept to promulgate. They were naturally behaving well. Now in our lives, in the day-to-day lives, there are so much of rules are there, regulations are there. For the simple reason that people do their things, live their lives being unmindful, being unaware than being mindful. If the people are so mindful, so aware, none of these rules, regulations are required. Since the people are unaware, rules are taking the positions to keep the people in awareness that if you break this, you are going to be punished. But if people are simply aware, mindful, no rules, no precepts, no regulations are required. Now, this is what happened after 20 years in the Buddha's ministry. Buddha spent 45 years after his enlightenment. First 20 years, a golden era. Whoever joins the Buddha, they had parami, they had spiritual developments in their past lives, and they were kind of not attached to the worldly life. They want to stop this cycle of birth and death as quickly as possible. They were repulsed with this cycle of suffering. And they were into the spiritual development than the material development. And they are sometimes being repulsed with their physical body. They want to develop the spiritual body. So when the Buddha introduced meditation, they just plunged into that meditation so fast. As long as they are awake, they are practicing mindfulness, awareness. So they did not need any kind of precept to control them. They are naturally controlled. Why? For the simple reason. The wisdom that arises with their mindfulness have a natural control over their lives. But after 20 years, the next 25 years of the Buddha's life, the individuals who joined the Buddha were not so into practice. They entered Buddhism, they entered this dispensation of the Buddha with so much of ulterior motives sometimes. They were not so keen into the practice of mindfulness. Then they started behaving unbecoming for people who went forth from the home life into monastic life. They were behaving kind of unbecoming, unsuitable, not supportive manner for a monastic. So Buddha had to promulgate precept after precept. And by the end of the Buddha's lifetime, he had promulgated over 200 precepts for the fully ordained monks and over 311 precepts for the female fully ordained nuns. That much of precepts he had to promulgate because of a simple reason. Those monks were not mindful. So the precepts became the guiding factor behind the sila in the later part of the Buddhism. But remember, in the early part of the Buddhism, it was the awareness, it was the mindfulness, it was the steadfast mind, which was the guiding factor, driving force behind the sila. Ye suppayutta manasa dalhena. Manasa dalhena, with an steadfast mind. Ye suppayutta, well engaged people, those who have well engaged with a steadfast mind. In other sense, the sila that arose in the awareness, in the minds of awareness. Now, sila can arise based on precepts, following the precepts. Sila can arise, morality can arise, but that morality is not that strong. That is why when you observe 5 precepts, how many times you have to observe again and again, again and again? Because you yourself is not mindful about the contrary actions that could happen, being unmindful to break those precepts. So you have to observe those precepts again and again. So the morality based on precepts are weak, not that strong. but the morality based on steadfast mind, manasa dalhed, that morality is the strong morality. This is the meaning. So the individuals, noble individuals who attain to those stages of Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat, they have this quality. That quality is they are engaged into their activities of the life, Yesupayutta, based on Manasa Dalhena, steadfast mind. Now we have to remember this steadfast mind is usually kind of a concentrated mind. Mind is naturally not steadfast. It is a scattered, running here and there. Now in the Dhammapada, the Chittavagga presents a number of adjectives to explain the mind as it is. The mind as it is, pandanam, quivering, chapalam, wavering, durakkam, hard to guard, dunnivarayam, hard to check, hard to stop, dunnivarayam, yattakamanipatino, alighting wherever it wants, lahuno, arise and cease quickly, lahuno, sududdasam, extremely difficult to see, sunipunam, extremely subtle, durangamam, far-ranging, ekacharang, roaming alone, asariram, incorporeal, no body, guhasayang, lying in the cave of the heart, paripandati, flops, varijova talekito, like a water creature plucked from its watery home, thrown on land. This is how Dhammapada in the Chittavagga explains the mind as it is. Now, in the meditation, in the spiritual development, we try to tame, control, and subdue this mind, which is explained like this, into a standstill, into a control. Now, it seems very hard when you begin your practice. These scattered thoughts get into a singular thought. This is the simple activity that we engage when we start practicing meditation. Scattered mind, which is running here and there, so fast, thinking this and that, running to past, running to future. We try to bring this mind to a singular thought. This is what we are trying to do. It seems very difficult, but not impossible. As time passes by, you can find that mind is getting used to, getting familiar with this practice and getting into this concentrated, steadfast, strong level of development. So the mind which is running here and there, which has scattered thoughts, is weak, is not strong. Meditation is the practice application to bring this mind to the singularity, to the strength, to receive that strength. Ye suppayutta manasa dalhena. Suppayutta and manasa dalhena represents sila and samadhi. Nikkamino Gotama Sasanam hi. Gotama Sasana. Gotama, Buddha's name. Buddha was known in the world as Gotama the Buddha. Gotama was his clan name of his clan, Gautama. Go means cow, Uttama is noble cow, because this clan of the Buddha basically came from those Iran and Iraq areas, those Aryans. They were moving because they were nomads, and their wealth was cows. These cows were providing their food, their wealth, and their everything. So with the cows looking for pastures, they were moving from those northern areas to southern, and they end up in northern India. Near the Himalayas. So since they were taking care of the cows and it was their roots, it was their beginning, they are called Gautamas. So Buddha was born in that clan and he was called Gautama. So Gautama is actually representing the Buddha. Gautama Sasanam hi. It means the teaching of the Buddha, teaching of the Gautama. Now here, we are moving to the third step of the development. Nikkamino, passionless, desireless. Desirelessness, Nikkamino, Gautama Sasanamhi. In the dispensation of the Buddha, being desireless. That is the meaning. Nikkamino Gautama Sasanamhi. Now, who is desirous? Who has desires? The one who is ignorant. Ignorance is the inability to see the reality as it is, the truth as it is. Deeper that inability to go, one becomes more and more powerful in desires. What is this? Seeing truth as it is. Seeing the impermanence, seeing the miserliness, and seeing the non-self is wisdom. So if somebody cannot see this triple characteristic of everything he himself and everything he has, animate and inanimate, everything is impermanent, everything creates more suffering to you than bliss, than joy. More you are attached to these impermanent things, more suffering is the resultant. And since they are impermanent and creating suffering for you, You cannot own them. You cannot have any ownership on them. That ownership is a delusion. So, non-self. As long as one is incapable, one is not capable of seeing that reality as it is, he is bound to be more and more attached, more and more craving, tanha. So Nikkamino, desireless. Who is this desireless? The one who has the wisdom. One who has the wisdom to see impermanent as impermanent, misery as misery, and non-self as non-self. He sees the truth as it is. As long as he is seeing the truth as it is, moment to moment, on everything happening around, on everything animate or inanimate, then he has no opportunity to create any desire on them. They are just arising and vanishing. Nothing static, nothing permanent. When somebody develops such a wisdom, he becomes nikkamino, desireless. Desireless. Now Buddhism guides from the basic level, from the basics level to the deeper level, to cultivate this passionlessness. Because being passionate, being desirous is the cause of all the misery. There can be 100 miseries that you may have, 1,000 miseries you can name, but the cause is one singular cause, desire. Desire is there. And more that desire become stronger within you, more will be your suffering. Less that desire becomes, less is your suffering. It is the path from the surface level to the deeper level presented in Buddhism very accurately. When you observe the 5 precepts, to reduce this desire, to reduce this tanha, the precept given is kamesu miccachara veramani. Kamesu, on the sensual pleasures. Miccachara, wrong behavior. Veramani, avoiding. Avoiding the wrong behavior or avoiding wrong use of the sensual pleasures. Now, this precept is basically for the lay people at home, householders, living the general life. For them, Buddha says, stop going to the extreme of pleasing your 5 senses. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, please them, but to the moderate level. Now, this is the most superficial level. From this level, now when you observe 10 precepts on full moon days or in special occasions, these 10 or 8 precepts, there are precepts to reduce this desire for sense pleasures or desire for anything to a deeper level. In the 10 or 8 precepts, what you observe is abrahmacharya veramani. That is to stop all kind of sensual pleasures, or specifically no sexual pleasures. When you observe that precept, no sexual pleasures to be gained. Then move on. Uchcha sayana mahasayana. Avoid enjoying those luxurious chairs and beds. Again, because you might create desire in it, craving in it, tanha in it. So avoid. Avoid utilizing those unguents, scents, garlands to beautify yourself. Avoid using beautifications on your body. Mala, gandha, vilayapana, dharana mandana. Avoid seeing, dancing, singing, music, Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasanamala Dasanama. Avoid watching those musics, dramas, singing, or the rest of the secular things which create bondages to the worldly life. So these precepts have a singular motive behind when Buddha promulgated them. It is to make sure your attachments, your craving is reduced to the worldly pleasures to a deeper level than the precept in the 5 precepts. Then move on to the meditation, beginning with concentration. In the concentration, one is supposed to enjoy, supposed to receive a certain joy, a pleasure, which is not related to the sense pleasures, to the outside world. A joy, a pleasure that arises within you, independent of the things happening around you. If the pleasure, independent joy, happiness arise within you when your mind is getting concentrated. Once somebody experiences that happiness, which has nothing to do with the sense pleasures, which has nothing to do with the pleasures given by others. So, independent pleasure, when that happiness, joy that arises within you, when somebody experiences that joy, happiness, which is explained in the jhanas, piti sukha ekaggata, vitakka vichara piti sukha ekaggata. Piti sukha, mental and physical happiness that arise in meditation. When somebody experiences that joy, that happiness, he will lose the attachment to the sense pleasures after that, because he experiences something beyond and more sublime than the primal level of pleasure and joy that experiences via sense basis. He will lose the attachment to that kind of sensual pleasures once he experiences that sublime pleasure that arises with the meditation. This is the third step. And after that, with the vipassana, when he get rid of the attachments, the ignorance, cravings, little by little, little by little, with this liberation from the bondages, there will be arising in him such a joy, such a happiness. That joy, that happiness is explaining in the next line. Te patte patta amatang vigayeha ladda mudha nibbuting bunjamana. They, those people, patting patta, patting the highest gain, patta attained, amatang vigaiha, vigaiha plunged into, amatang deathlessness. I have already explained to you in the earlier part of the Buddha's life, when he explains Nibbana, he used amata in the place of nirvana or Nibbana. This Ratana Sutta belonged to one of the earlier suttas in the Buddha's ministry. So we can see that he uses this amatang, matang, deathless. This deathlessness, amatang, in the places of Nibbana. But we have to be mindful, we have to understand that this amatang represents Nibbana. So this line, te patti patta amatang vigaiha, has two meanings. Or two meanings are integrated in the same line, in a single line. That is, they attain to the highest gain, patting highest gain, patta attained, of amatang, Nibbana. They attained to the highest gain of Nibbana, or they vigaiha, plunged. They plunged into the highest gain of Nibbana. They plunged into the highest gain of Nibbana. Te patting vigaiha amatang. They plunged into the highest gain of Nibbana, or they gained the highest gain of Nibbana. Patting patta. Gained highest gain. Amatang, deathlessness, Nibbana. Vigaiha, plunged. Two meanings. You can say either they gained the highest gain of Nibbana, or they plunged, vigaiha, they plunged into the patting, highest gain, amatang, Nibbana. Te patti patta amatang vigaiha. Ladda muda nibbuting bunjamana. Now these people who attain to those stages of Nibbana, they are freely, ladda muda, they have received free. Ladda have received muda, for free. Nobody sold that Nibbana to them. Nobody sold those stages of Nibbana. They got it free. Yeah. When they are getting rid of the defilements, the Nibbana realized to them. It is a free gift of getting rid of defilements. Ladda muda, got it free. Nibbuting bunjamana. Bunjamana, enjoying. Nibbuting, peace of emancipation. Peace of emancipation. Nibbuting. Now, this nibbutta is something familiar. Yeah. In the Buddha's life, even prior to his enlightenment, when he was about to renounce, he saw these three sides of eternal disasters that are waiting for us. Old age, with old age, sicknesses, With the old age and sicknesses, then the death comes. Three eternal disasters. He saw this and he was so dejected, disappointed with all the luxuries, happiness that he is having. And he was thinking of finding a method to get rid of these three eminent disasters. Then he saw a monk. Then he decided, I must renounce. I must renounce and find a method for getting liberation out of these three disasters. But he was in a dilemma because he has to leave behind all those people he loved. And those people, they love him so much, they protect him so much, and he has to leave them. It was such a dilemma. Then, when he was returning from his trip to the pleasure park, he saw these words. Nibbuta nuna samata, nibbuta nuna sopita, nibbuta nuna sanari, yasayang idisopati. This mother, this father, this wife who has a husband like this, for sure, they are peaceful, they are happy. When he heard this word, Nibbuta, it struck him. It struck him deeply that he is not going looking for misery. He is renouncing looking for happiness because at home, the misery is waiting. Old age is waiting. Sicknesses are waiting. Death is waiting. I am looking for a freedom from these, and I am looking for happiness. Nibbuta, happiness. Idampi sanghe ratanam panitang. This is a precious jewel in the community of Sangha. What is that precious jewel? That they entered into the supramundane path. In that supramundane path, suppayutta manasa dalhena, they are pure in their physical, verbal, and mental activities based on their manasa dalhena, steadfast mind. Nikkamino Gotama Sasanami, they are passionless, Nikkamino, desireless, passionless, Gotama Sasanami, in the dispensation of the Buddha. They patipatta amatang vigaiha. They have gained the highest gain of amatang nibbana. They have vigaiha, plunged into the amatang nibbana. Ladda muda nibbutim bunjamana. They are freely enjoying, experiencing that what they have received, which is nibbuting, the peace, happiness of emancipation. This is the jewel in the Sangha. Etena Satchena Suati Hotu. By the virtue of this truth, may there be peace. The merits that we generate in our hearts by listening to this Dhamma, by sharing this Dhamma, be dedicated to Mr. Lokubandar, Vijamu Lokubandar, who passed away a few days ago. Wherever he is now, however he is now, may he be rejoiced with our merits. May their present existence, may his present existence become blissful, happy and peaceful. This is the wish of the beloved devotees who wanted to share these merits together with him. And this is the wish of the Sangha members in the temple, including Most Venerable Nayaka Hamaduru. So let's share these merits with Mr. Lokubandar. May he be rejoiced with these merits. May he be blessed with Nibbana. Idang me jnatinam hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. Idang me jnatinam hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. Idang me jnatinam hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. For the devas, Akasatta cha bummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu loka sasanam. Akasatta cha bummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu loka sasanam. Akasatta cha bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu loka sasanam. Blessings for you. Dukkha roga bhayavera soka sabbe upaddava anekantarayapi vinassantu cha tejasa. Jaya siddhi dhanam labham satti bhagyam sukham balam diriyayu cha vanno cha bhogam uddhi cha yasava satavassa cha ayu cha jiva siddhi bhavantu te ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti meva cha ato nibbana sampatti iminate samijjatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.